Hello, I'm Dave and this is Fiver, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of Swallowcliffe in Wiltshire, and it's located about 8 miles east of Shaftesbury and 11 miles west of Salisbury. And we're going to be walking a roughly 5.5 mile circular route. We'll start with a wander through the village and then head north around Swallowcliffe Wood to explore the Iron Age Hillfort at Castle Ditches, and then we'll head west to 12 Acres Copse, pass by an old deer park before visiting the pretty village of Ansty with its amazing Maypole. And on the final leg we'll take a path back from Ansty to Swallowcliffe. Well, I'm filming at the end of March. Oh, it's one of those glorious spring days. The sun is out, blue sky, should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Okay, well, we'll start off with a walk with a little wander around the village, and what better place to start than the church, which is just behind me here. And it's the Church of St. Peter, built in 1843. Now, the original 12th century church stood near a stream to the east of here, but it often flooded. So a new church was built here on higher ground in sort of neo-Norman style, using parts of the old church. And it consists of a nave, north and south aisles, a south transept, a chancel and a tower incorporating a porch. And I think it's got 3 bells. Okay, in we go. Have a little peep inside. There's the font over to the left there, and just above it there's a quite stunning stained glass window. And just making my way through the nave, there's a very I don't know if you describe an organist suite, but I think that looks quite sweet, doesn't it, on the right there. And then over on the left, there's the pulpit, stone. And then going through to the chancel. Again, another quite beautiful set of stained glass windows above the altar there. What a beautiful church. Now, as far as the name Swallowcliffe is concerned, well, the word swaler or swallow has got Saxon origins from a name of a stream, and cliff, I think, means slope. But it was recorded as Swallowcliffe or something like that in the Domesday Book, when it comprised 3 estates, the biggest of which was owned by Wilton Abbey. But after the dissolution of monasteries, it all went to the Crown and then to Sir William Herbert, who became Earl of Pembroke in 1551. And it remained in the Pembroke family name until the land was all split up and sold in the early 20th century. Now, from medieval times to the 20th century, agriculture was the main industry in the village, and the ridgeway up on Swallowcliffe Down to the south of here was the main London to Exeter road in the 17th century. It was turnpiked in 1762, but it was disturnpiked in 1864 and superseded by what is now the A30. Well, this is the Royal Oak pub. Originally it was a tannery in the 18th century, but it's been a pub since 1852. I think it closed in 2007 and then reopened again in 2015 when it was bought by a consortium of villagers. Not 100% sure, but I understand that the TV presenter James May became a co-owner in 2020. I should also mention that there was another pub nearby called the London Elm Inn, more to the southeast of here, It originally was a farmhouse that became an inn in 1757, but it closed in the early 20th century. The building itself had become run down by 1984 and has since been demolished. I don't think there's any evidence of any building there today. Well, just on from the pub is this quite delightful little, I suppose it's almost looks like a village green with a yew tree in the middle, and there's a stone, I think that's the Millennium Stone, and I believe it marks the site of the old church. And you can see why they moved the old church, because it's right by a stream, and I can certainly imagine it getting very damp here in years gone by. That's the sign I was looking for, to the village hall, which is going to take us out of the village. Just a little bit further to the north is the manor house. I don't think we're going to be able to see it, but it originates from, well, historic England, say mid-17th century, although an 1888 map suggests 1568. But it's had 20th century extensions. I think it was called Place Farm and then Upper Farm in the 18th century, and then Manor Farm in the 19th century, and then it reverted to being called the Manor House in around about 1890. Well, there's Swallowcliffe Village Hall. It was first erected way back in 1934. It was an old army hut from the First World War camp at nearby Fovant, but it was rebuilt in 1957, and I believe it suffered from a fire in 1949. Right, a little update on the route. So this is where we do definitely leave the village and head northwards along this footpath, and it looks like we've got an uphill section. I'll tell you what, that blew away a few cobwebs. So nearly made it to the top of this ridge, and the views over to the south are really quite stunning. So yeah, I can just about see the church at Swallowcliffe just down in the valley below there, and then over onto the far side. Everything's looking so fresh. We've had this hideous winter when it's just been day after day of rain. It's great to finally see some sunny days again. So this next little section of the walk, I think, takes us through Swallowcliffe Wood, or certainly along the side of it. Okay, well, we've made our way out of Swallowcliffe Wood. We've got to cross this field. Now, the Iron Age Hillfort that I was going to have a look at is just on the other side of those trees, but I think it's on private land. So basically, I think we're going to have to sort of circumnavigate it. We'll see how we get on. Well, this is the outskirts of the castle Ditches Fort. So I can't go any further because I said earlier it's on private land, but it's an Iron Age Hillfort, a sort of triangular shape covering 24 acres, and there's a triple row of bank and ditches now covered by trees all round, and there's an entrance to the south east. So, well, you can see in front of me there's a sort of, well, quite an impressive ditch and bank. I'm presuming that was one of the original banks, and there's another one through further ahead. Okay, apologies if there's a bit of wind on the audio, it's quite exposed up here. The next section of the walk, we're going to leave the Iron Age Hillfort, head eastwards, and then drop down past a bit of wood, Whitmarsh Wood I think it's called, and then back westwards along the sort of, well, to the north of the fort, and then we should eventually find a farm. Fingers crossed. Oh wow, you certainly get some quite breathtaking views from the top of the ridge up here, and this is looking over to the east, and the fields, might have said already, very green. Another little update on the route. So we've made our way sort of round the fort really, you can see it up there, and just over to my left is a farm, Withyslade farm I think it's called. So we're going to continue heading westwards, and then we should come across a little road which we cross. So just behind those trees, that's Withyslade Farm. So we've crossed over a little stream, and then there's a lovely little section of trees here, a little avenue of them. Oh, what a beautiful little cottage, thatched. Oh, I love that one. Really quite idyllic, isn't it? Whew, it's getting quite warm now. So we're now into our next little bit of woodland, heading towards, I think it's called Pheasants Copse. Now if you look at a current Ordnance Survey map, there are some pillow mounds in these woods. That's that sort of medieval system of raising rabbits with artificial warrens, but I don't think I'm going to be able to see them because there's so much sort of overgrown sort of trees and what have you. Right, we need to kick on, so we're continuing to head westwards. I'm on part of the walk now where I think I know where I'm going. Parts of the walk are really well signposted, and then others not so. All good fun though. Well, a big change in direction now. We're heading southwards through another little bit of woodland. 12 Acres Copse, I think it's called. And I'm on this, I'm not sure if it's a byway or a bridleway, and on my right hand side there's, well, if you look at an old map, it's called Park Pale. Basically it's the bank of an old deer park. But just to my right is this fascinating mound. it's amazing. And as you can see, it's almost like a grass mound, but with steps. And I've been speaking to a lovely gentleman that owns the house here, and he's been telling me all about it. Apparently all it is a water tower hidden underneath. And he tells me it's a really difficult operation to cut the grass on there, but isn't that amazing? You never know what you're going to come across on a walk. Well, I've been making my way through 12 Acre Copse, and I was beginning to get a little bit worried, and I might have got lost. There's a lot of forestry work going on in here, and some of the tracks are badly poached, but thank goodness I found a way marker on the tree there. So if I follow that, that should take us to the little village of Ansty. Well, I'm now just about to come into the tiny little village of Ansty. And in the Domesday Book it was recorded as 2 estates under Anastio. I think the origin of the name is Saxon Anastiga, or An and Stig, possibly narrow path up a hill. Well, this magnificent building here used to be a pub, the Arundel Arms, and it was renamed the Maypole Inn in 1973, but it closed at some stage and it's now a private house. Well, this, folks, is the famous Ansty village Maypole, and it's like stuck almost in the middle of the road, well, right by the junction, and it dates, well, possibly as far back as the 16th century. And I believe it's replaced every 20 years or so. Now, it used to be 98 foot high and was one of the largest maypoles in the country, but the last time it was replaced, it was just going to be replaced at 50 foot for safety reasons. And by tradition, the new pole has to be in position between sunrise and sunset on a single day. Otherwise, the right to erect it in the road is surrendered. And they still have celebrations here on May Day, and a May Queen is crowned. I believe that the current tallest maypole in England is over 80 foot up in Yorkshire, I think a place called Barwick in Elmet, I think. Oh my, look at this. It really is quite enchanting. It's a lake, as you can see, but I think it was originally a fish pond created by the damming up of a stream that flows north into the River Nadder. Now, back between the 13th century and around about 1541, there was a preceptory here in Ansty. The manor was the property of the Knights Hospitallers, and they built the Ansty preceptory, which is basically a monastic house. But after the dissolution of monasteries, there were various owners before it was sold to Sir Matthew Arundel in 1594, and that family held it up until 1946, when the estate was then broken up. And the actual remains of the preceptory are in the grounds of the manor house, which I can just see on the other side of the pond. And I think the building by the road here was actually either a guest house or a banqueting house connected to the preceptory up until 1927. It's actually been a workshop ever since, I believe. But I can't see too much of the manor house. Obviously it's a private property, but it's to the west of this guest house, and I think it originates from the 16th century, although there's been quite a few alterations ever since. Well, this pretty little church is the Church of St James at Ansty. Now, there was a church here from what, 1210, 1230, and some of the nave may survive from that building. But the rest of the church was rebuilt in the 14th century and restored in 1842, 1878, 1917 and 1965. And it's a sort of cruciform plan with a nave, north and south transept, both of which were added in the 19th century, a chancel, a south chapel and a bell turret. And I think it was dedicated to St James in 1763. Well, we'll have our usual little peep inside. It's lovely and cool in here. And there's the font on the left there, which I think is either 12th or 13th century, not sure. And then through to the nave. Just turning to my right, looks as though there's just the one sally, the one bell, and then through to the chancel with, looks like just the one stained glass window above the altar there, and the sun pouring through the window there. I know folk sometimes like to see the various kneelers, and there's a little selection there in front of the altar. Oh, I tell you, I just love this lake. The setting here is quite exquisite. Okay, we're going to leave Ansty now, and we're on the homeward leg across some fields back to Swallowcliffe. Well folks, here we are back at Swallowcliffe, right by the Royal Oak. And as it's open, well, we ought to pop in there, just for research purposes, for the video, of course. Well folks, here we are in the beer garden of the Royal Oak, testing out their Dorset sixpenny best. Oh, now that is nice. And of course, it's sausage time. I expect we'll share a packet of crisps later on. Bert's today. Well, we hope you enjoyed our walk today. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had another super walk. Weather, it's been amazing. It's got the year off to a great start. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Good boy. Oh, now this is a pint.